Okay, so we've now got all of our basics set up. We've got our personal details in there and we've got our first ARCP in. So let's start recording evidence of having achieved some learning outcomes. Alright, the order I would do this in is just my personal preference and what I think is the easiest way. So I would say the best thing to start with is a rough activity summary sheet, and I would set that up just as you're starting a project. So we'd go into assessments and enter new assessment. On this screen, you would first of all choose that it's going to be an activity summary sheet, and then you need to choose the supervisor for this piece of work. In this case, I'm going to choose supervisor ES10, which is the supervisor account I've got the dummy login details for. And then click enter assessment. So let's imagine that I've been asked to do a review of prostate cancer screening. And let's imagine that it was happening today and it was in T's. In this box we enter the details of the activity that we've done. So let's imagine, I don't know, I was asked to review the evidence for prostate cancer screening. I completed a full evidence review and wrote a report and presentation for the local screening committee. In general, you'd write something a little bit longer than that. Now it might be, obviously when you're starting a project, that these aren't absolutely clear. We can edit these later, so it's no problem. And once you've completed the project, you'd put a personal reflection in here, so reflection. At this point, we haven't completed this piece of work, we haven't linked evidence and things to it, so we just want to save it as a draft for now. So now on our list of outstanding assessments, or ongoing activities if you prefer to look at it that way, we can see somewhere on this list, review of prostate cancer screening. They're incomplete, but it's registered on the system. That means that as time progresses we can now start recording evidence against that activity. So let's imagine that it's a little while later, I've completed the project, I've written a report, and I've given a presentation, and I want to add those pieces of evidence to that activity. We go to evidence and add evidence. Here you have evidence is viewable by, and there's an option of personal or public requires approval. Personal means that it only appears in your portfolio. Public means that it appears available to every single user of the ePortfolio system. I can't think of a single situation in which you would want to make something public, so I would always put personal in that box. So let's give this a title. So this is the AAA Evidence Review Report, because I'm going to upload the report Word document that I created. So this is a file, this is the report that I submitted to the board, so let's choose this. I'm on a Mac here, as you can see. So review.doc is the Word file that's associated with this. And let's give it a description. This was the report I wrote on, it wasn't AAA, was it? It was prostate cancer screening evidence. There we go. This was the report I wrote on prostate cancer screening. We can link that to an item in the portfolio, so we can link that to our activity, so activity summary, review of prostate cancer there, and that will link that for us. And we can save and assign this some learning outcomes. Spelt screening wrong on that last page, but never mind. So here we can see all of the possible learning outcomes in the curriculum. And we can go through these and pick the ones that we think this report has good evidence for. So let's have a look. Probably generate an appropriate question in order to assess the evidence, so we can tick that, and we can put a justification for ticking that. So this project required a clear question on the appropriateness of prostate cancer screening in our local population. And again, this project included a literature review, and the search strategy was documented in the report. Okay, so you can go through and attach it to as many pieces of evidence, as many learning outcomes as you think is appropriate. So go through and attach it to whichever of these you think is appropriate, and then you can save and go to your list of evidence. So on here now we can see prostate cancer screening evidence review report here, and you can see that it's attached to those 2 learning outcomes, and it's also attached to the activity summary sheet from earlier. So now let's imagine that a little more time passes, everything's complete, and I have finished this piece of work, and I'm sure I've identified all the learning outcomes it's associated with. Then we can go back to the activity summary sheets, back in outstanding assessments. And here it is. Now, at the moment, due to a bug in the website, when you view this, it will say no evidence has been associated, as you can see here. This isn't true, it's just a bug. And if you click on Edit up here, it will show you the evidence that's been associated. There, so we can see that these are the 2 learning outcomes and the 2 pieces of, or the 1 piece of evidence associated with those 2 learning outcomes. Now once we've finished this, so we've put in all of our activity details and we've done a full reflection, we can send this along with that evidence and those learning outcomes to our educational supervisor for their review. You do that by clicking Submit and Send to another party. And that will send all of that documentation over to your educational supervisor. And in the next video, we'll see what they can see.